Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Sunday, March 22nd, and I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm going to start with this past Tuesday in Pittsfield. There was a joint school committee and city council meeting, and it was pretty interesting. And the part I'm going to highlight is that Tom Scanlon from Scanlon Associates, which is the company that does the city's audit, gave a brief type of presentation talking about some of the bullet points and some of the things that went on with the audit. And it was pretty interesting. And I know for a lot of you, those are tough to watch, city council meetings and school committee meetings, but they are important. They are very important. So some of the things he talked about that I definitely want to bring up is because they're already discussing the fiscal 27 budget. And like a lot of communities in Massachusetts and in the Northeast, times are tough right now. And one of the things that he mentioned was as far as debt, the city is not in a position, we're at our levy pretty much. I think we have a leeway of $300 and something thousand. So we're not in a position to borrow any more money for any projects, any big projects. And he stressed to the city council that, you have to keep in mind that any of these spending decisions you're making are a direct effect on property taxes. And in Massachusetts, as we know, Proposition 2.5 regulates that. So, there's that also. We're not in a position to do anything there. And there's been projects that are much needed. We've talked about for quite some time. A new police station is one of them. I don't know how that's going to happen anytime soon, to be honest, unless there's some miracle happens and the federal government or the state government dumps a bunch of money into the city of Pittsfield to build something like that. Because you're talking, I don't know what kind of numbers, 50 to 100 million probably, who knows? It'd be big money to have a modernized new police station, and you'd want to do it right where you're getting the time out of it. Our police station, I believe this year is at the 90-year mark, right around there, 90 years old. So it's not too far off from a 100-year-old police station. And it's so outdated and has been for a long time. So, but again, when he talked about where we're at as far as borrowing power, we're kind of maxed out. And so I want to talk about that because infrastructure and roads is something that was brought up. But he stressed the type of audits because you do hear audit. And that's something you've always heard during campaign seasons. We've heard it from the state. I think it's 72% of the voters wanted to see a state audit through the governor's office. But for Pittsfield, what Scanlon and Associates does is a financial audit. And he explained in detail, there's basically three types of audits. You have a financial audit, a managerial and operational audit, and a forensic audit. And what they do is a financial audit. And I'm going to use the example he gave. So say when they're doing the audit, the fire department had $2 million appropriated to them to buy 1,000 widgets. So when he's doing that audit, he's looking at the books and saying, okay, well, there was $2 million appropriated for 1,000 widgets. Here's a purchase order for 1,000 widgets. Here's a receipt and for them being received for 1,000 widgets. And here's the payment, and everything washes out exactly how it's supposed to. A manager or operational audit would be a company that would come in and look at, say, that same department, and I'm just using that for an example, the fire department, and look at the books and say, well, could this job be done? Do you need 1,000 widgets? Could it be done with 500 or 100 and we could save money there? Another example he used is winter road maintenance. Are we getting our biggest bang for the buck? Are we spending our money wisely on taking care of our roads during the winter? Is it in our best interest financially to sub out the work? Or would it be in our best interest financially to buy the equipment and pay people what they need to make and have it in-house with the city? So, that's what a manager and operational audit would be. And then, of course, a forensic audit is a detailed, specific audit where you're looking at every penny spent and did it go for what it was supposed to go to, and is everything accounted for? I imagine a forensic audit incorporates a little bit of financial and operational, as well as making sure that the work was completed and the money was spent wisely, and that things were put out to bid the right way, and that the money wasn't spent on things that it shouldn't have been. That money could have been saved somewhere else, something like that. Now, I believe one of the counselors asked if their association did those other audits, and he said no. And Scanlon has been doing our books for, I want to say, 20 years for our audits, our financial audits. And they have a stellar reputation. I think I can't remember if he said around 80 communities, but they do audits throughout the state for quite a few other municipalities and towns and communities. And they have a great reputation. So it was nice to hear from him and hear some of these things. And when he talked about the city not being in a position to take on any big projects right now, unless you could get an override on Proposition 2.5 or something like that, because your taxes, your property taxes, your excise taxes, all that is regulated by that. You cannot by law, and there's a concern there, because if people remember a few months ago, for those who paid attention, that was being thrown around in Boston, looking at doing away with Prop 2.5, and that's kind of scary. But that's another conversation. They also talked about, and our financial person, Matt Kerwood, he talked about marijuana sales, because one of the counselors brought up how they, social media is always talking about potholes and yada, yada, and they don't like it. And he said, we've done more road work in the past couple of years than we have in a long time. All that is true. I did videos the last year and the year before saying we're seeing more road work these seasons than we've seen in Pittsfield in a long time. That is true. But like a lot of communities in this state and in the Northeast, our infrastructure is in not the best of shape. It took a long time to get to where it's at. You look at, I'll just throw a few off the top of my head, but the bridge on Melbourne Road in West Pittsfield, the bridge on Barker Road, the causeway. I mean, all these, there's so many locations and so many roads that are in such bad shape. It took a long time. This just didn't happen because of a bad winter or over the course of a year or two. This took a long time to get to where we're at. And, you can look at different reasons why we are where we are, and I'm sure people have different opinions. But in my opinion, the facts are we need to expand our tax base through business. And how do you do that? We have a red carpet team, and this is when I did the debates, the mayoral debates, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago almost. But were we doing those? I mean, is the red carpet team doing what it should be doing? Is that a smart investment for the city? Or is the red carpet team, it sounds to me like every time I see something, they're facilitating things like Allegroni putting in apartments or Milltown needing something. And nothing against those companies, but it's one of those things where the more money you have, the more money you get with projects. And again, I know we desperately need housing. So the old Berkshire Bank on Park Square, which is the old Berkshire County Bank, building, Allegroni purchased that and that is going to be apartments. They did get a 10-year TIF from the city. They've got a considerable amount of finance from the state. They're also doing the Wright building. But when you look at what's happening with our rentals, and I've mentioned this before, it's being consolidated to corporations. And the majority of our rental properties in the city. And go to, what's the name of it? The former White Terrace. I keep forgetting what they named it, like Terrace 592. I was looking on their website at the prices because the average cost for an apartment in the city of Pittsfield is close to $1,500 a month. And then if you need like a 3-bedroom, if you're a family of 4 or 5, you're looking at $2,000 or more a month, plus utilities and everything else. And they require a certain amount of income per year, certain credit score. So if you can't keep up with things and you fall into a rut, it's very difficult to survive and get out of that. That's an issue. Market rate housing, when the bulk of the rentals are owned by a handful of companies, they're setting the market rate. Now, is it cheaper to live in Pittsfield than it is to, say, Boston or someplace? Of course it is. But you look at the amenities of living in Boston. You look at the opportunities for employment of living in Boston. Pittsfield has an aging population. We have a median age in the mid-40s, and it's getting older every census. We're going through a population decline still. We had a little bit of a bump up a couple years there around COVID, but we're going through another decline. I think we lost another 0.45%. When our younger people get out of school here and they leave the area to go to college or take employment somewhere else, they're not coming back. And you're seeing a lot of that. So what is the incentive when people say industry? We need industry here. Who are you going to hire? Who is going to work there? A lot of industry type jobs require young people. You're not going to hire people that are in their are 10 years away from retirement or 15 years away from retirement. And to do what? To do physical work? So any kind of industry as far as like that type of labor, I don't think you're going to see that here. And then you add the housing situation on top of it. And what do we have for amenities? Look, the Berkshires are one of the most beautiful places you could go for the outdoors. There's no doubt about it. If you're a person who loves the environment and outdoors, this is an incredible place to be. But take that out of the equation, and what are there for amenities? What is there really for entertainment and all these different types of things? And we're getting a little bit better at that. But you can drive through Pittsfield sometimes at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it's lights out. Everyone's home in bed. It's not... The appeal isn't going to be there to have a lot of young people here. So again, you have to look at what is the red carpet team doing? When I did a post asking people, what would you like to see on North Street? And that was one of the driving ones I did, just going down North Street. And because this year, there is, I believe this year, change coming to North Street. If you remember about 9-10 months ago, the city had narrowed it down, I believe, to 4 different models they were looking at. One of them was a buffered bike lane where it's protected. There was a couple different options they were looking at, different ways to park, whether they're going to do diagonal head in, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. When I looked at the comments on there, some of the most comments were, we need police officers walking the beat. I totally support community policing, having officers out on the sidewalk, on foot. You got to do that. I mean, I've heard different reasons why we can't, that we're short-staffed and they're responding to too many other things. But if we could find a way to have uniformed officers on North Street, that would change so much. And community policing is so important for building a great relationship between the police department and the residents. But that was the most common one, was we need a police presence on North Street. And people aren't crazy about the bike lanes. And I don't understand why the bike lanes need to be on North Street. I get that with the average cost of a car being $50,000 now for a new car, that's the average cost of a new car. People are being, you can talk about people being pushed out of the housing market to not be able to buy houses because the median age for buying a house now is 40 years old, where not that long ago it was 25. But look at the cost of houses. That's what's happening with the car. Bicycle sales nationwide are way up. I think they're expecting 2026 to be a record-breaking year of around 1.35 billion in sales, with over 35% of that e-bikes. And why is that? Because people are relying on them for transportation. There's no doubt about it. And e-bikes you can ride year-round. But the deal with North Street itself, it's a destination spot. That's what you want it to be. You want shopping, dining, residential, all that. Bike lanes, I keep going back to why not Center and Seymour? Why not First Street? I mean, if we're talking about connecting to the rail trail and all this other stuff, even though people who ride on the rail trail, I don't think they're doing it for transportation. I think they're doing it for exercise and to get out and to ride. But bike lanes on North Street, I don't get it. And again, if we're not enforcing the jaywalking on North Street and the bicycles on the sidewalk on North Street is out of control. And it is. That until that is addressed, if you're not going to enforce it, what's the point? If you start enforcing it, you can make some headway. But I think North Street should be a place where if you're going there on bicycle, when you get there, you walk your bike. And there should be safe bike racks, maybe even with cameras over the top of them, where people can safely lock up their bike and go shopping and go do the things they need to do. And walk, use the sidewalks like everybody else. I mean, that's what I feel North Street should be. I don't know why it's such a small strip, and it's the most important. It's our downtown. It's a reflection of the whole city. I keep saying that, but it is. If your downtown looks amazing and has a lot to do, it kind of spreads out. And for visitors coming to the area, a downtown part of a community is one of the first places they see. It's a representation of all of us. So, I don't know if giving that much real estate on such a small strip over to these bike lanes that hardly anybody uses them. Again, I see more mobility chairs in the bike lanes going the wrong way because they don't feel safe on the sidewalks. So it's all that needs to be addressed. But those were the two biggest things where people wanted to see a police presence and they want to see more businesses. We need some anchor stores. I'd like to know, is the red carpet team out there cold calling? Are they contacted with companies? Hey, why Pittsfield is a great place to come to? Do we have promotional videos that we email out to companies? Why we want you in our community and what are the incentives to coming here? Why we would want a business here. And you have to reach out and do that. You have to aggressively pursue. And anytime I hear the red carpet team, I just hear Allegroni and Milltown or something like that. I'm not hearing anything else. And I'm not bashing either one of those. It's just, I feel like the red carpet team could be doing a lot more. And if they are, let's hear about it. So I still haven't reached out to the mayor or the chief or the commissioner of DPW, Ricardo Morales, but I will. I'll be reaching out to all of them to see if we can sit down and talk about some of this stuff. I think it's all very important. Another thing that they mentioned was the declining marijuana sales. And when you talk about the roads and our infrastructure, that money isn't there. And, why do people ask that so much on social media? Well, it's pretty obvious. It was pushed as a selling point to legalize recreational marijuana. And it absolutely was. Doesn't everybody remember pot for potholes being thrown around? So when you preach that kind of stuff to the community, why do you think that they're saying, hey, where'd all the money for that go? But the money is not there. It's not the big revenue stream that everyone thought it would be. Pittsfield set aside, I believe, permitting for 35 recreational marijuana stores. And I don't think we'll ever come close to that. But the money, I think the number that was thrown out last year was $900,000 is what the city made off of that. And the way that works, 50% goes into the general fund. And if I'm correct on this, 25% ended up going into Department of Public Works that could be applied towards road projects and stuff like that. We're not talking any kind of real money, unfortunately. And as more states legalize, less traffic you're going to see here. And then if it legalizes federally, if that does happen, and I don't know if that's going to happen anytime real soon, but if that happens and people can order and have it delivered to them or shipped to them, and you can order, through states, through the mail that way, who knows how much that cost is going to go down. That revenue stream is not going to be, and I did videos on that a few years ago saying what's going to happen when New York legalizes, what's going to happen when all these surrounding states where all the people in the beginning were coming to Massachusetts, what's going to happen when they legalize, and they have. So we instantly saw that. And not, a lot of people don't talk about the fact that you can legally grow your own. And a lot of people do that. And it takes a little bit to get that ball rolling. But after it became legal to do that, to have X amount of plants, and I can't remember how many you can have, but it's generally more than enough for one person to, and it's not like having to learn how to brew your own alcohol. It's basic horticulture, and you can, get grow lights or whatever you got to do. I don't know a lot about it, but it's not like making your own whiskey or making your own beer or anything like that. So there's that factor of it too. And you can save a lot of money if you're a marijuana user. So, but that money is just not there. And so when people ask about what about all the weed money for the streets, it's not there. And the roads are something that needs to be discussed. But again, I don't know where we're going to get the money. So, and I'll wrap it with water and sewer. So water and sewer is a utility, okay? And he said water and sewer does not fall under taxation with like Proposition 2.5 does not override that. So they can raise those bills to what they need to raise them to if there's the project or whatever they got to do to raise money. If it's a wastewater treatment plant project or something like that, your rates are going to go up. There's nothing to regulate that as far as like you would with taxation. And I'll end it with this because we know why people are mad about the roads and potholes. It's not just because they want to complain. It's because that you could be on your way to your second job one morning, right? Maybe already stressing about getting rent paid or your mortgage paid, and you hit a pothole that you couldn't avoid, and next thing you know, you got $1,200 of damage to your car that you got to come up with. People don't just complain about it because they got nothing better to do. Times are tough, and I think city councilors and city officials need to look at it that way, that if people are concerned, it's, again, I encourage everyone to keep it as respectful as you can because screaming and yelling isn't going to get you anywhere. Trust me, I know. I've had my own drama in my personal life. But I get why people are so upset. And I think the city needs to, some of the city officials or elected officials need to be cognizant of that and understand why. It's tough if you're already struggling and then out of nowhere, you got to come up with a lot of money to fix your car just to get it back to where it was. And, and that's your transportation to live because our public transportation is weak at best. And the last thing tied to that I want to mention is housing. So I just pulled some basic numbers with housing. And in 2016, the median tax assessment for a home in Pittsfield was between $90,000 and $129,300. 10 years ago, between 90,000 and 129. If you retired and you're on Social Security, your house is paid for, maybe you have some money in the bank for repairs, things like that you might need to do, but you're on, I wouldn't even say pension for some, just Social Security benefits, and you're on a fixed income. That's what you retired with. Fast forward 9 years to 2025 numbers, and the average sale price in Pittsfield of a house is $356,703 with a median home value of $305,778. So there's people that in a 9-year window, the value of their house went up triple. And if you're retired on a fixed income, okay, that equity is doing you no good unless you sell the house. And if you sell the house, where are you going to go? A lot of these people are just trying to stay in their house for the rest of their lives. That's what they wanted. So when you hear people go, oh, that's a good thing, you're earning equity, that's not a good thing. Now you're paying that much more in taxes, and the values have jumped out of control. And that's a big deal for a lot of people because, again, that equity does you no good. No bank's going to give you a loan on that. If you're on a fixed income and you can't pay the loan, if you don't have the money for that, and now when you have a house that's paid for, you want to refi, and now you've got another debt. I mean, for many, that just doesn't work. So they're struggling when they see their taxes go up even more because of assessment value, and their water and sewer going up, their utilities, the electric going up, everything going up and up and up and up. And if you look at what Social Security increases are, 2026, their cost of living increase was 2.8%. You had years like 2016, it was nothing. 2017, 0.3. The biggest was 2023. They did an 8.7%. But those numbers don't even come close to adding up the inflation on everything else. So that's why people stress on this. But anyway, that's it. I could go on and on and on. Hopefully, this is a lot of information, hopefully good information for some. But stay engaged, stay involved. As far as big road projects and things like that, I wouldn't expect much coming unless we get a bunch of federal and state money for that. I don't think you're going to see a lot. Stay active with the North Street thing because that's supposed to happen this year. So the more community involvement on what we want to see there, the better. And I will reach out to Mayor Marchetti, to Chief Madalena, and to Ricardo Morales from DPW or Department of Public Services and see if I can get an interview with all three of them talking about some of this stuff in detail. So that is it for now. Oh yeah, wait. Last thing I'm going to plug, next Saturday, the 28th, the Rotary Club auction. I'll be doing another video on that, a short promo for that tomorrow. I've been pushing that heavy. Their special featured recipient this year is the Berkshire Humane Society, which does so much work through their food bank for people struggling with that and needing food for their animals. Of course, their adoption agency, all the work that they do. The Berkshire Humane Society is one that's really near and dear to me. So the Rotary Club auction starts at 4:30 p.m. this coming Saturday at Berkshire Hills Country Club. It's a lot of fun. You can get free tickets for it. I'll put the link for the website. There's a QR code on there. You can just download and get free tickets for it. And tons of stuff to bid on, from cruises to everything else. If you haven't seen the video I posted for them, that's going on the page. I'll share that in the comment section also. And it talks about the auction and all the different types of things. So, that is it for now, though. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.